Hello, I'm Brian Unger. Welcome to Unauthorized Biography, where we look back at Milo, the supermodel whose sophisticated image and excessive lifestyle will forever define the disco era. She was too rich and too thin. Our time with her was too short. Sadly, her tragic death earlier this year is still fresh on our minds. Join us now for Unauthorized Biography, Milo, Death of a Supermodel.
Elvis, Marilyn, Madonna, Milo. Milo was the first true supermodel, redefining the American ideal of beauty, fashion, celebrity, and tragedy. Tonight, for the first time anywhere, family members and famous friends share their most intimate and touching memories of Milo.
I known some messed up chicks, but she was the pas de resistance.
I couldn't stand the spitting when she spat in your face.
She tried to run me over in a car.
Milo was born Irma Jean Bagnall on July 6, 1958, the middle of 5 children to Hank and Marge Bagnall, in what she'd later call one of those big square states. Hank worked the night shift at the box factory. That's all his family needed to know. Marge still wins blue ribbons for her 5-cheese casserole. She and Irma's sister Betty look back fondly on those special times.
Irma was sort of an odd child. She's very sullen, quiet, willful, and skinny. Evil.
Much of her childhood was spent alone in her room, banished from the table for not cleaning her plate. As she grew to a solitary adolescence, tall, flat-chested Irma became the butt of her classmates' insensitive taunts.
They used to call tiny tits. Can I say that on TV?
Alone, flat-chested Irma turned to her only friends, glossy fashion magazines. Here was a glittering world beyond 5-cheese casserole. All Irma's dreams came from these pages, tantalizing glimpses of a magical place called New York. Francis DiLorenzo, co-author of Milo's autobiography, I Love No One.
The glamorous world of high fashion, and it really became an obsession with her. She didn't do well with reading and writing and arithmetic, but I guess Cosmo was her textbook.
Shortly after this Halloween snapshot was taken, 16-year-old Irma emptied her Christmas Club account and ran away to the city of her dreams. Seeking fame and fortune as a high-fashion model, she'd made her choice.
Irma was selfish. We gave her everything we could.
Parents always feel they've tried their best and that they love their children and they love them equally. But one wonders about a mother who would name her child Irma to begin with.
The year was 1976, the dawn of New York's golden age of disco. Manhattan's beautiful people, fueled by high spirits and mountains of cocaine, would party all night.
Everyone was in the bathroom at Studio 54. That's where all the fun was, that's where all the people were.
At sunrise, they'd stagger into the Terminal Diner for some solid food before going home to sleep through the afternoon. There, a waitress and desperate would-be model named Irma Bagnall served a plate of poached eggs, Dijon on the side, to a photographer who would change her life.
I spotted her right away. She had that crazy hunger to be noticed that I could not miss. She's a skinny, scraggly girl. A terrible waitress. Just perfect.
She was this naive young girl, fresh out of the Midwest. She knew nothing about this guy's reputation as this shock photographer. The only Germans she knew about were on Hogan's Heroes.
Hans Peter Christian liked to tell everyone he was Europe's most controversial photographer. The opportunistic fraud took Irma to his Greenwich Village studio and, during an infamous one-week photo shoot, renamed her Milo.
She was named after Venus de Milo, because I've always been attracted to women who would let me cut off their arms.
Somehow, these photos triggered the art scandal of the decade.
There is a very fine line between fashion and pornography. I walk it with the delicacy of a fine surgeon.
An exhibit of the photos opened at the Potter Purebright Gallery on December 12, 1976. The uproar was instantaneous. Journalist and author Michael Musto.
The thing is, Hans Peter, had no talent. So he was just another parasite feeding off the corpse of the fashion industry.
Mired in a Carter-era malaise, the media whipped up a fierce controversy around these lurid images. New York's fashionable power elite jumped on the bandwagon and decreed this was a luminous new face. Suddenly, Irma Bagnall, an emaciated girl from a big square state, was now Milo, the hottest model in New York City.
Still to come, exclusive, never-before-seen footage from the only known interview with Milo, when Unauthorized Biography continues. And now, back to Unauthorized Biography.
Milo had arrived. Overnight, she became the most photographed and sought-after woman in the world. Every rock star, every club owner, everybody wanted a piece of Milo.
She had a lot of people, who just were hangers on, like most celebrities do. But there was this one, went by the name of Maximo. This guy was like a chihuahua on coke.
We went to Studio 54 every single night. It was so, everyone was there. There was Lorna, there was Liza, Halston was there, Fiorucci was there, Bianca, Paloma Picasso, Rudolf Nureyev, Steve Robel, of course, Ian Schrager was there.
Well, everybody wanted to get into Studio 54, and the irony is, even though Milo was the queen of studio, Steve didn't want her there, and everybody was instructed not to let her in. So Lauren Hutton used to have to bring her in this gigantic makeup bag that she would carry. Milo would be in the bag. And the funny thing is, sometimes hours and hours would go by before Lauren would even remember that she was carrying Milo and not a bunch of eyeliner.
We were the ones that invented the bump. Do you remember the bump? Well, I walked in one day, and there's Liza with a T, over there dancing by the moon that's hanging, and Liza was trying to jump up to it or something. And I bumped into Liza. Now Liza she was pretty pissed, so she bumped back. And then Milo's on the other side of me, so Milo bumped into me. So we kept bumping each other. I went like this, she went like this. We suddenly started bumping each other. Suddenly the whole club started bumping each other, and they said, "Hey, you're doing the bump."
In 1977, Milo was the undisputed queen of New York. The king, a fun-loving South American called Cocaine. Disco diva Vicki Sue Robinson also recalls Milo's Studio 54 days.
Michael Musto used to joke that, you know how everybody wore the little Coke spoons around their neck in the 70s? Well, that Milo needed to have like a shovel.
She would get all these drugs from friends, and we would try all this stuff. And, okay, I was getting her some stuff. But we would try everything. She was snorting, and she was punching, and she was pushing, and up this nose, and you know?
Milo soon acquired a reputation for being imperious and unreliable. Former fashion model Bebe Buell remembers waiting for Milo.
I was so excited about this Vogue shoot. She was so late. The issue was supposed to be for January, and it didn't hit the stands till March. I mean, that's Milo.
I used to call her Irma just to piss her off, because I don't know if you know this, but that was her real name, and it would really piss her off. I mean, not that she needed help to get pissed off, because, I mean, she was pissed off all the time. She's what you call a rage queen, you know, a real rage queen. Oh, man. You just like, especially if you called her Irma just when she was going to put on her lipstick, it was like, oh, it was a riot.
Talk show host Joe Franklin saw a different side of Milo.
She taped the show with me, and she gave me some little catchphrases that she said to me one day. She says to me, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice." And I picked that up. That's when she was still what you would call semi-coherent, semi-lucid.
But even at the peak of her success, most of the fashion world agreed that Milo's escalating drug use might someday threaten her career.
She put the chic in heroin chic. She started off in secret places and you couldn't see the tracks, but she was doing so much of the drug that soon she had these purple blotchy track marks all up and down her arms. Soon the photographers couldn't find an angle to shoot her at without these awful track marks showing. And at the time, this designer came up with the concept of track sleeves, which were these unsightly strips of cloth that would go from shoulder right down to the wrist with a band.
Milo's horrible habits created a wonderful sort of fashion with everybody, and everybody wanted track sleeves. It was like Madonna and corsets.
It was probably the most ridiculous fashion statement I'd probably seen yet.
By 1979, styles were changing. Milo was shedding her look and her entourage, including a failed model and sociopath who'd later play a pivotal role in her life, Jane Fusco. Meanwhile, Milo's bruised and cadaverous look made her a perfect icon for the emerging movement called punk.
She was the ultimate chameleon. When punk was hot instead of disco, she just would like rip up her Halstons, all her spandex, her Lurex, she would rip them up, she threw some blood on it, she threw on a dog collar. She was punk. She had the nasty attitude, she had the heroin addiction. It was perfect.
In no time, she switched from Studio 54 to the angry downtown clubs like CBGB.
The punks, they were supposed to be really tough. But when Milo showed up, it was like, there goes the neighborhood.
We had an expression, you know, when we went to the clubs, I'll meet you at 1/2 Milo, which was like 2:30, which is the time you could always find Milo at half-mast on the floor somewhere in the bathroom.
Deplorable, wretched, disgusting, you know, etc.
Ingrate.
Ingrateful.
You know, she stole a lot.
I didn't get to work with her that long because just as I was starting out was sort of the end of her career. We actually overlapped by one show. She did my first show, and I actually think it was her last show because she went down the runway and we didn't see her again. She just kind of kept going.
Evicted from her posh uptown apartment, Milo moved into a flat at the Chelsea Hotel, famed hideaway for artists, bohemians, and junkies.
Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen lived just upstairs from Milo. And they were always complaining about the noise late at night. They tried to get Milo thrown out of the hotel.
Okay.
And now, the broadcast premiere of this never-before-seen footage of Milo, shot by an NYU film student.
I am the 80s. I'm every woman, I'm whoever the hell else they all say they are. It's me. It's all me.
More of the Lost Milo interview when Unauthorized Biography continues. And now, back to Unauthorized Biography.
You know who should do cocaine? I'll tell you who should do cocaine. That Cheryl Teague should do cocaine. She's 6'2", 120 pounds of fat ass. That's what she is. She's the only one, though. Hello, who are you doing this on, me? She's the only one. Everybody's always saying I do so many drugs. When you find me in a heap of drugs, then I've done too many drugs. Laying in a heap of drugs. There's no such thing as a heap of drugs. Jim Morrison died from bad press. He didn't die from drugs. He's probably not even dead.
On September 7th, 1980, an unattended yam atop Milo's hot plate at the Chelsea Hotel burst into flames while she lay in a heroin stupor, or as she might have put it, a heap of drugs. It took 2 days to wake her up. Milo would spend the next 4.5 years in rehab.
When she went into rehab, it was like old times at the rehab center because we knew everybody there. Liza was there, Lorna, Betty Ford, John Belushi. All we needed was Steve Rubell and a velvet rope.
1984, the Reagan era. While the rest of the country was waking up to morning in America, a sober yet still unpleasant Milo was checking herself out of rehab. And now the 26-year-old ex-supermodel needed to find a new scene.
The drag queen community immediately adopted her when she got out of rehab. They literally thought she was a drag queen. And to this day, there are drag queens who will swear that she was a man.
Milo was born again as gay royalty. Her playful, elegant hat, stolen from Deborah Harry, became her new trademark. And soon no gallery opening or Broadway premiere was complete without the 70s survivor hovering over the buffet table. These paparazzi photos were taken at the 1992 Liechtenstein retrospective. In 1996, the Whitney Museum mounted a 20th anniversary exhibit of Hans Peter Christian's infamous photos. Mired in a Clinton-era malaise, the media whipped up another fierce controversy around these familiar photos. A lucrative book deal soon followed, and Milo's autobiography, I Love No One, was praised by critics for its complete lack of human feeling.
It typifies the story of America, the rise, the fall, the suffering, and then you're welcomed back. Look at John Travolta.
But perhaps the most avid reader of Milo's book was a 38-year-old divorce data entry clerk from Massapequa, Long Island, a woman boiling with jealous rage. Her name, Jane Fusco.
The extraordinary pictures of Milo's final hours when Unauthorized Biography continues. And now, the conclusion of Unauthorized Biography.
Riding a wave of reacceptance, Milo went on a hugely successful book signing tour. But on June 13th, 1997, Milo's story would reach its climax. Her fans turned out in force, including the failed model and sociopath who'd stop at nothing to share the limelight with Milo, Jane Fusco. One of Milo's fans captured these now famous photos of their tragic encounter.
Nobody actually thought Milo had any brains until they actually saw her dead in the street, and the brains were splattered on the sidewalk. And they weren't very big, but they were there.
Milo's funeral wasn't attended by anyone in the fashion industry, anyone in her family, or anyone who actually knew her. Nonetheless, crowds flocked to pay their last respects. Jane Fusco was arrested shortly after the slaying. She's currently negotiating a major TV movie with the Lifetime cable network.
Jane Fusco was a nobody. Milo became a somebody, and nobody could figure out why or what made her different from the Jane Fuscos of the world. They were all untalented, they were all nasty, they were all bitter. But somehow Milo made that into a career.
Milo's death has already made her a legend among today's youth. Still, the question remains, who was Milo?
Of course I knew I was going to be famous when I was a little kid. Of course I knew I was going to be famous. Everyone knew I was going to be famous. I was thin and beautiful and misunderstood. Those are the big threes of fame. If you right now went to Akron, Ohio, there would be some 18-year-old girl wearing my sleeves still, and it was 6 years ago! 6 years ago, and I still have my sleeves! You know who doesn't have sleeves? Cheryl Teagues doesn't have sleeves! You hear that, Scamolo? Go shooters, she doesn't have her own sleeves!
Whatever you might say about Milo, she was a bitch.
I always avoided Milo as much as I could. Now that she's dead, it's just easier, you know.
She was famous, she was stupid.
Some people are just mean, and we don't know why.
All I have to say is, you know, one of us is sitting here and one of us isn't.
Hell has a new queen, I guess.
What really galls me personally right now at this point is that she's dead and she has a show.
John Lennon and Kurt Cobain, Tupac Shakur, Marvin Gaye, John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, and Milo.
You come here.
Inside every young girl yearning for the bright lights, there's a little piece of Milo.
My only regret at this point is ever letting you in here.
Milo is gone, but her influence endures. At this year's Fall Fashion Preview in Paris, no fewer than 6 major designers sent supermodels down the catwalks wearing track sleeves. I'm Brian Unger for Comedy Central's Unauthorized Biography. Until next time, thank you for joining us.
I like Blondie, but Debbie Harry sucks, man. She's a good singer, but she owes me money. And if you see Debbie Harry, why don't you play her this tape? She owes me like $275. I gave it to her to buy some lame Fiorucci shirt. She didn't have any money on it because she hadn't gotten her advance from Epic or whoever the hell label. And you know what? That was 8 months ago. And that record came out, and that Florida Glass song is huge.